you are also a CA, right? And so we will like to know how was your journey.
Well, even though I finished my CA in 1999, I've been working in the industry. I've worked with a lot of multinationals.
Tell us about your CA journey. Like how was it?
So I used to be a very average student in the 11th, and I used to fail in maths most of the time, till the 10th standard, and I used to struggle in my subjects, very average. The teacher came to class and he said, there is one professional degree you need to do in commerce. It is called CA. But till now, I did not know what is CA. And then you get 1 lakh salary in Dubai. I thought, okay, whatever this is, CA, God gave another chance. I will do CA, right? Which is
So, hello viewers, welcome to a brand new episode of our podcast show that is Sign Up Startup. So in this show, like मैंने बोला था पहले ही कि हम ऐसे लोगों को लेके आएंगे जो स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम में ऑलरेडी काम कर रहे हैं और उनके इनसाइट्स जानेंगे दैट हाउ यू विल गेट बेनिफिट फ्रॉम ऑल दोज इनसाइट्स. So today we have someone who has more than 16 years of experience from ICICI Bank, and now he is consulting startups in their business growth strategy. So it's my honor to welcome Mr. Valance Quadros in our podcast show. So hi Valance, how are you?
good, good. Thank you, Ashish. Thank you for having me here.
So it's our honor to have you on our podcast, and like I mentioned that ये podcast में we will share the insights, shares the knowledge which will be benefited to for our viewers. So let's start. So you are also a CA, right? And so we will like to know how was your journey, how was your background, and how you have end up with ICICI, and now you are doing this business growth consulting.
Yeah, thank you. So, that even though I finished my CA in 1999, I've been working in the industry. I've worked with a lot of multinationals, and one of the just in my earlier stint, especially I think in Standard Chartered, it was there. So I got introduced to Six Sigma. The one thing that when I was getting trained on Six Sigma and Lean on the quality methodologies, what I really liked about the entire concept was on the power of process or the power of methodical thinking. And I did not know that the entire country, which is Japan, right? The entire quality revolution started from Deming, who was in the US. He then came to Japan, and I remember this story which is there. After Japan was completely destroyed, and they were looking at how do they build the country up. So then Deming asked them that he would be the mentor and guide them. And the only condition Deming had to them was you have to listen to whatever I say and follow. Right. Okay. So the Japanese are very clannish. So they have the elders who decide for them, and then the elders agreed to say, okay, no, we will listen. So he says, but you will have to listen for a long time. Right. So they said, okay, how many years? He said 20 years. You have to listen. Right. Okay. Then they decided that we will listen and follow, and we'll give you 20 years, right? And they followed what all Deming used to teach them. And in 20 years, the Japanese started building the automobile industry so well that they get better cars, more cheaper, and they started taking market share of US. So Deming was actually from America, and when he was trying to teach US, nobody was listening to him. Okay. When he suddenly seen that, what all he thought the Japanese, and the Japanese are now, taking market share, then they called Deming back to US, come and teach us also, right? So that is when I realized that, how countries can transform. And what Deming typically and always very beautifully says is that what I thought is, how to think, right? And I think the power is thinking in a very structured manner. When a lot of people think in a similar way, there is a lot of power that gets unlocked. Right? When there is a structured thinking. I think that's something that really got me fascinated for this entire concept of looking at things as a process and getting as a structured manner problem solving. And I invested a lot of time learning in that area, and I then I went on to do my master black belt in Lean Six Sigma. And I think that more than anything else, I think what really benefited me was this process of thinking helped me perform in my job very well. Wherever the structure of thinking, that was, I think, made the difference between, me and my work and what we do. And I think that's something that I like, and that's where I always was in this area all my life. And I want to now help businesses process setup, something that I've been, learned it for so many years.
So, tell us about your CA journey. Like, how was it back in, I think, 90s?
Yeah, 90s. Yeah, yeah. So again, CA. I mean, just to give a background, and again, the process. I think part of it even started at that point of time. So I used to be a very average student till the 11th standard. I used to fail in maths most of the time, till the 10th standard, and I used to struggle in my subjects, very average. And in 11th standard, in 10th standard, I actually got a second class. So and I come from a place called Chennai, which is again a very known for, if you don't take science, then you're a duffer, right? That's the way you're treated. So we are all depressed. We got a low class at 11th standard. We were doing commerce, and I always thought they really messed up my life, right? So, and I always thought that professional degree is only engineering and doctor. So if you're there, you made it in life. So the first day, my teacher came to class and he said, there is one professional degree even you do in commerce. It is called CA. So that till now I did not know what is CA. And then he said, you get 1 lakh salary in Dubai. So I thought, okay, whatever this is, CA. God gave another chance. I will do CA, right, which is there. So very clear that whatever it is, I will pass the CA. And I had to then change, the way I studied. And again, another by providence, the best boy the new boy who joined school, and he used to come first in class. Incidentally, he became my close friend. So I always thought earlier that it's intelligence. People are gifted. That's the reason they study well. They top the class. Uh, but somehow when I was listening and when I was interacting mostly with this friend of mine, I got to see his inside, more detail. The first time of intelligent friend. Then I got to know how he studies. Then I realized, there is a method in the way he studies, and I don't do anything of that. Okay, and then what I started to say is, like, for example, he used to always write and study. Right? He will make his own notes. He will read. He'll do that. Before the exams, he will practice tests, right, which is there. He'll have the consistency of study every day. Right? So there is small things, but they were very meticulously followed. Then I noticed that these are all not very difficult to do. Why can't I just model him? Okay. So then I used to just model him. So I used to tell him that I will beat you in 12th standard, right? So he says, okay, why don't you? So we got into competition. So I used to just see what he's doing, then try and see, let me also do. So he's doing making notes, I will also started making notes. Okay, I started making notes. Then I used to write and make notes, right? Then I used to daily I make sure that I do some studies. Consistency was there, and I should do practice tests. And then I realized that suddenly my marks were getting better. Okay, and then I followed that practice. 12th standard, I beat him. I stood first. Yeah, I stood school first in commerce. Then I went on to do my CA and passed in the first attempt. So the key was, what I realized is that when you look at it as a process, you find out what are those important things that really matter, and then you keep improvising. That's where I think the benefit is for me also at that point of time. That's the way I landed up doing my CA and passing my CA.
So, coming back to process, like you mentioned, that process is important in both personal and professional wise. It is important for companies also. So, tell me like 3-4 exact benefits that what a person, if someone is following the process, then what all benefits he will get in his personal life, and same for company. If a company is following process, that what all benefits they get.
I think the biggest benefit, right, which I have seen why processes, what is the benefit of a process is that you can replicate it. Okay? You can replicate it consistently. Uh, uh, and I think the most irritating things which I've realized for a customer is inconsistency. So, for example, I remember when I was in Hyderabad. So, in Hyderabad, we used to have this, we had a plumber to come home and, to do the plumbing. So first time I called the plumber, he said, "Sir, 10 minutes, 10 minutes में आ जाऊंगा." ठीक है. So 1 hour he doesn't turn up. ठीक है. So then I realized that okay, उसका 10 minutes means 1 hour. Okay. So then the next time when some problem was, I called him, he said 10 minutes. ठीक है. Then for me mentally I was tuned. 1 hour. ठीक है. So I was not anxious because I knew after 1 hour he'll come. ठीक है. So the third time when I called him, he said 10 minutes and he came in 10 minutes. I got very angry. Okay. The problem was that inconsistency was irritating me. Even if you are doing wrong, but you are consistent, na, then also is okay. But when you are not consistent, na, that causes the biggest irritation. So a lot of times in business is everything, right? It is about the variation or inconsistency we give in our service is the most irritating thing for our customers, right? And we are not why we can't be consistent, because we don't know only when because we're not following a step. Suppose you follow some steps, then you can be consistent. If you're not following one step, first time you follow 3 steps, 10 steps, 15 steps, you will automatically have output which will be inconsistent, right? So that is where the beauty is. When you look at it as a process, when you put step by step, your ability to control the process, the ability to be consistent, right or wrong, but you'll be consistent in that output. That is the biggest benefit of looking at things as a process. This is the first benefit, right? You get consistency of output. The second thing that happens is you will improve, right? When you don't document anything or you don't put it as a step, you don't know where to improve. Okay. But when you put something in the steps, so I always have this example of artificial intelligence, right? So I remember in the 1990s, the first time I heard of in a computer, the computer, playing with the chess player, right? Gary, right? Which is there. So when the computer used to play and it used to lose. So the first match it lost, second match it lost, third match it lost, fourth match it lost. But the way the programming of the computer was that every losing was a learning, right? So it used to treat it as a process and find out, okay, what is working, what is not working. What is not working, discard. What is working is, so background, the computer may be losing, but the background there is a process, okay, which is discarding what is not working, taking what is working. So the 25th match, still the computer loses. 26th match, computer wins, right? Then 27th match, again it loses. So the computer started getting signal on what it is winning, right? 28th match, 29th, similarly to the 45th match, suddenly computer starts winning because all the winning moves it started having. 45th match, then back to back, computer is winning. There was no match. Then they started testing it again, grandmasters. It started winning grandmasters. Then it went even the chess master, which is there, it beat the chess master. But what did the computer do? It started with no knowledge. Right? There was no knowledge, zero knowledge. Only a process. The process is very simple. Whatever is doing, discard what is not working, pick up what is working, build what is working, and it is build and beat the best. So that is where even in our work and everything which is there, our ability to get to the best, no matter where we start, that is what process allows us to do. It allows us to keep improvising. Doesn't matter where you start, but it can take on the best as long as you focus on the process and you keep improving the process. And I like even Mahendra Singh Dhoni. If you've seen that interview, what is his secret for calmness? He is focusing on process, not result. Right? When you figure result, then all tension is there. You focus on the process, result will take care of itself. Because you'll always, process is always like you feel in control. Okay, result you don't have control. What is in control, you keep tweaking it, you will always get better. And that's the power of looking at everything as a process.
But do you think that it is difficult for humans to consistently follow something? And I think that is one of the reasons that why people are not successful, and very few percentage of people are successful.
So I think what is difficult, yeah, so you're right. So I think it's difficult for consistency. But I think what I've seen people achieve this particular part, right, is having a dedicated discipline for some time. Okay. I always believe this beautiful thing about habit. Okay. Once something becomes habit, then that habit takes you forward. Okay. So meaning something has to be a discipline. It needs effort in the beginning, right? It's like beginning conscious effort till habit takes over, right? So you have to be consistent till the habit is formed. Once habit is formed, then that habit will take you so many years. You don't have to run after that become. But the key is consciously you have to create that habit, right? It could be 21 days, it could be 60 days, till the time it becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, then it is autopilot.
But in habit also, so for bad habit, it will take only 1 day or few second minutes. But for good habits, which I have also observed in my personal life, like it is very hard to wake every morning and doing the same thing for a good perspective. So how one should overcome these kind of challenges?
Yeah, from my personal view now is that I have this bad, and this is way I think God has made this, right? Whatever is easy, or has overcome naturally is actually bad for us. Okay, it could be we like eating pastries. Okay, but eating a lot of pastries enjoyable, what is going to get us in trouble, right? Which is there. Exercising is difficult. Okay, but once you do, but that will only give us the benefit. Even if you look at a garden, right? We keep land which is there, and if you don't do anything to it, okay, weeds come. Weeds you don't need effort. Weeds automatically come. But if the garden has to be created, it requires effort, right? It has to be there. So if we want our life, our thing has to be like a garden, okay, automatically it cannot happen. That is the way nature is. That's the way nature has made it. It requires effort. It requires intention, right? And a lot of times, as long as the why, and that is where it comes back, why are you doing what you're doing? If that why is not coming from the right space, coming from the right place, for you to sustain for a long time, to hold on to that place is not going to happen. Any small roadblock, because you're going to get roadblocks, you're going to get difficulties, you will give up, right? Which is there. So I've seen people who are able to really make this difference. It's more than that, why you're doing what you're doing. Once you are clear as to why you're doing what you're doing, a lot of other things keep falling. You're able to have that persistence, you're able to overcome those bottlenecks, you're able to overcome that. Till that skill is developed, till that momentum is created, you push forward, right? So I think that's an important one. Spending time as to why you're doing what you're doing. I think that's very important.
So let's come to the process. Like I have heard three words specifically. One is process, one is SOP, and one is systems. Like people say that you should follow systems. So what is the difference between these three?
Process, SOP, and system. I think they're both very interchangeably used. In my mind, I think process, an SOP is a process, right? It's part of a process. A documented process is an SOP in my mind. So you have a process, you document it, it's an SOP, it's a standing operating procedure which is there. You can't document an SOP without looking at it as a process. So for a process, you should have a start, you should have an end, right? Where it starts, where it ends. Then you should have a step by step. So what are the steps that get particular, which is there. So for you to document an SOP, first you have to look at things as a process. If you don't look at things as a process, then you can't document. Okay, so it's more of the way you look at it, just on an input and an output, and what are the steps in between, right? System, I think, is again a very loosely interchangeable use. My interpretation of system has been the process if it is automated, or can it be part of a system? You can call the steps also the system, or the one thing is once this can be put also as a part of an automation is also you can call it as a system. So that's the way I would read these three words.
Okay, okay. So, whenever these kind of efforts are done, I have seen in like 2-3 cases in my personal observations that employees in organization show resistance to first time implementation of standardizations and SOPs. So, if a startup is facing these kind of difficulties, then how should they address it?
So I think the reason I've seen a lot of resistance that comes from employees or anyone who's trying to do it, because it is hard work. It sometimes looks very laborious. It looks very non-value added. Sometimes you feel like you can do better work than rather doing this stupid work of this documenting which is there. So I think that is the biggest hindrance that I see people find that. Second is that anyway you're running against time. Right? So a lot of time you are doing so many things, so busy you are, and you just don't have the time to do this. Right? So which is another problem that most of the startups typically have. The third problem that they have is since they're evolving so much, every day is so different.
Every day is new.
Right? And every day is new, so they feel that what was yesterday, what I documented today is not relevant. So why am I need to waste my time in documenting it, right? So which is the dilemma, and so you land up not documenting, not trying to put in things as a process, and I think that's the biggest resistance. But in my experience, I always believe that you should pick up something that alleviates the pain. Okay, so one of the ways that I would always encourage people to start when looking at processes, which is causing them biggest pain, right? It's anyway causing you pain, right? That area you first try and simplify, or try and put it as a part of a process, right? So what happens is, when you are anyway in pain, and you at least hope that extra little pain may elevate this pain going forward, right? So there is an incentive for that person also to do that, right? Because it's going to benefit that person only there. So I think that is the best way, I think, of starting off. Identify which is the most painful area, most complaints, most places where you're struggling, or most places where people are leaving and you have to retrain the people, you don't know where it is. Those things could be the first starting point, I think, just from just to benefit that part, and maybe start the process of documenting. That is one. Second could also mean that you could make it easier, that you could get some outside help, right, to do it. Or it could also make, like, a lot of times you don't need to document, you can just record the process. Okay, so you're doing something on the system, just record it, and the recording you outsources and ask that person to create a process for you, right? Or when you are only doing it, just talk and record your voice, right? And then that recording your voice, give it to someone to make it into a SOP, right? So I think those small tweaks in the way we document does not necessarily mean you have to type, right? And all, I think, the ability to capture, but somewhere it has to be in a form which is in a visible form, right? And the beauty about visible form is, once it's something is in a visible form, it's easy to improve, rather than something that is invisible. That is the core difference.
So, Valence, give us an example which you have worked with any SME or MSME or startups where they get the benefit of implementing SOPs. Any instance you like to share, or from your ICICI journey there, if any instances came where implementing SOPs instantly gave them the results.
So coming back to the areas where you want to focus on. Okay, so I will just give you link it up to what, from an SOP perspective, and how to document and which is the area to focus upon. So I remember when I was actually working in Bank of America, and we have one process, outsourcing process that was there, and we used to do a lot of work on that. And there was to be a lot of customer complaints. So the customers used to keep yelling because a lot of things are not going wrong, going wrong, and the team was also very clueless. What is that? Because the new process they were doing, not very clear on the process, and so there used to be huge customer anxiety. Right, customers are yelling, shouting every night, and so I used to be there. And they'll tell you to do something, they will fix it. They'll fix that issue. Someone new issue keeps coming up. So then there was like complete chaos. Right? Each one did not know what and where, what to do. So then what we did one time is, we just said, okay, forget, just let's measure what customer wants. Okay. So what we did was, we went and took the service level agreements and then try to find out what is the customer wanting. So for example, customer, one of the ask was that there should be zero outstanding reconciliations more than 7 days. Right. So that was one requirement. Or there was a turnaround time for a resolution of a particular requirement from the customer. That entire resolution should be done in 48 hours. That's for example. Then we said, okay, let us go and look at the what is the truth, what is there. So we just put data around it and just try to pull out. We found out that there are some 200 entries beyond 7 days open. Or it takes us 72 hours to close a particular case against 42 hours. So then we realized noise. So first of all, we quantified where the problem is. Okay, so once you quantify based on the data, you come to know now this area you need to go more deep. At first you don't know where to go deep, right? You find out which is the areas you go deep. So then you go and pick up, okay, now why does the open entry happen? And then you go and look at it as a process. Okay, how are you doing reconciliation? And what are the steps you do in reconciliation? You map it as a process. Then you will find out that you're not doing it the right way. Okay, when there's entries are there, or there are open entries which are there, and these open entries, for example, one open entries for the reconciliation was there because some reference number you are not able to really find out from the money that comes in. The reference number is not a problem. Then we realize that the team that is sending money, because this comes across the world, okay, there's another team from Hong Kong who sends the money, doesn't put the reference number. Now that team who's sending money from Hong Kong is on the same floor in the end. Okay. So this fellow had to just go there and tell him, why, when you're sending, put reference number properly and come. Right? You have to walk some steps, find out, change the process at his end. So going forward, all started coming with the reference number, reconciliation was automatically happening. Correct. So there were these small tweaks happened. One is first you find out where the problem is. This data tell you where the problem is. Once you get the problem, then you go deep into it, put it as part of a process. Then you find out where the core issue is. Then you do root cause analysis to find out what can be done to fix it. So you are following a method to really fix the issue.
So you have actually summarized the steps that how a startup should, if they have facing this kind of inefficiency, then of course they should do this kind of exercise and they can overcome all those challenges. So we have talked about SOPs process and how all these things helps an individual and organization to grow. So can you share us some misconception normally people have in their mind when we tell about process? Any misconception?
I think, I just touched upon that. I think the biggest misconception people have is it's a waste of time, right? I think that's the biggest.
At some point of time, I also thought that all these things why we are doing, but yes, I also at point of time I realized that this is important if you want to scale and if you want to grow.
And I think the value of it comes when teams become bigger. Okay? Especially when teams become bigger, you are not able to communicate at the way you used to earlier communicate. The smaller team, they're always with you. You're able to communicate to the last level. But then communication breaks down after there are a lot of people comes in the layers which comes in. And when that breaks down, then it doesn't get performed the way it's supposed to get performed, right? The way you would want it to get done. So process and all that helps only when you put it as part of the steps. As I said earlier also, it helps you get consistent output. The more you're able to put it as part of the process, you'll get, so two things it will help you. It will help you give consistent output. Second, as the team becomes larger and bigger, right, you will have a lot of attrition. Attrition is going to be a big problem which is going to be here. And retraining and reskilling is going to be important. Now, when you don't have documentation in place, your reskilling and retraining is going to take a long time. When you have this in place, so it's a one-time pain that is there, but your future becomes much more faster, right? So you're not very people dependent. You're getting, it gets process dependent. Whoever comes in, you're able to train them fast, you're getting them fast. And not only just process dependent, the process can get better also. So you're doing both. You're getting it better, your people are getting shorter time span, so your ability to scale gets better, right? Otherwise, you don't do this, then in that vicious cycle, everything revolves around you. And then you will never grow. That is the core.
The organization always should be process driven.
And I always believe that to go fast, you have to go slow. You can't go fast without going slow. You have to slow down to go fast.
I think this may be one of the core reason that why AI is booming, because there is a standard set of process which is there in AI and it improves. Each iteration it is improving. So now we will come to some standard questions which normally I ask in this podcast. That suppose you have a chance to build a startup. So what problem you will like to address and which kind of startup you will like to build?
Yeah, so I've just started my own journey also as a startup. My consulting is like a startup only what I'm doing. Yeah. So the problem that I'm facing is this, for solving is this of helping startups scale, right? And I think, and it has two steps to it, right? One is getting it on autopilot. Can I set it on autopilot that it runs without the founding team, it runs without the main people responsible, right? Then you scale it because you set a foundation and then you put all parameters, then you are set to scale. I think that's the problem that I am trying to solve through my consulting.
Nice. So, one advice you want to give to your younger self?
I think, I always thought, because I'm an introvert by nature, so I always thought marketing or sales is only for extroverts. I think that is one of the big learnings that I've had. For my younger self, I think last 5-6 years I've been investing a lot of time learning marketing. That's one of the things that I realize is a problem with most of these startups or anyone in the business. If you want to grow, you have to be good at marketing. And what has been my bigger learning is that the best marketers are introverts, right? Which is there. And the more I keep learning about marketing is again the process. Right? There are very clear steps that needs to be followed. And when you follow the steps, automatically, the results come. So the steps triggers principles, and those principles of marketing you need to learn. And once you're doing those principles, automatically results come. So even marketing, I did not know you could learn it as a process. So if I knew marketing can also be learned as a process, I would have learned it much before than what I'm doing in the last few years.
And how you manage time, because that is one of the bigger problem in specifically in startups, where the founder or the person who are in core team, they are always busy in the work. They work for 16 hours, 18 hours, so there is always a misbalance of work and life. So how you, because you have had a vast experience in the corporate also, so how one should manage their time?
There is, for you to have work-life balance in the long term, in the short term, your work has to be out of balance. Okay, only when it is out of balance for some period of time can you get balance for a longer period of time. So what I mean by that, is, when you are in a new team, new projects, sometimes it requires you to work 18 hours a day there. It requires, right? You need to do that. You cannot come and say that time, I only do 8 hours a day. It doesn't work. Then you are frustrated for all your life doing 8 hours a day, but you're always not able to do. Rather do 18 hours a day, get that working. Two, three things that happen. You'll get it working. People will find you trustworthy. People will know that you are able to deliver. You will build trust with people. Your bosses know that they can trust you, right? When trust gets built, then they always give you the benefit of doubt, right? And at that point of time, they give you the freedom later, so that you have the flexibility. So I truly believe that you need to be, for a short period of time, unstable or more work you need to do, but in the long run you can only when then in the long run you will get work-life balance. You cannot think that you'll always get love. It's not going to happen. It's not practical.
Okay, okay. So it was a nice session with you. I think our viewers get a more holistic view of how should process one should follow, and how organization and startup must adopt this process driven thing. So thanks again for coming to our podcast. So viewer, that's it for today's episode. Please subscribe to our channel, and we will come with a brand new episode in next video.